adventure, sports, outdoors. With host Harry Canterbury.
There I was, back in the wild again, and I felt right at home where I belong. I had that feeling coming over me again, just like it happened so many times before.
Hi, Harry Canterbury with another edition of Adventure Sports Outdoors. We've got an interesting show today. We have a special guest, Norm Kelly from Peoria, Illinois, and Norm is a real special guy. He wrote the history of Peoria, the only guy I know that knows more about Peoria than Peoria itself. And we also have Mr. Fish, our cooking expert, Pat Sullivan, who is going to cook up a nice mess of trout. And as you've seen last month, we caught a whole lot of trout at Elkader, Iowa. So join us today for an interesting and real neat show about Peoria.
Adventure Sports Outdoors, brought to you in part by Corsaw Lumber, manufacturers of quality hardwood products, buyers of standing timber in Smithfield, Central Pool Supply, everything from pools to pool tables and much more in Peoria on West Pioneer Parkway. Michael O'Brien Commercial Real Estate and Recreational Ground, Remax Unlimited Commercial. Kelleher's Irish Pub and Eatery, located on Peoria's riverfront, open 11 a.m. daily. Christopher Coin Gun and Pawn LLC, 333 Derby Street in Pekin. Our thanks to all of these sponsors.
We're here with a special guest and a very dear friend of mine, Norm Kelly from Peoria, Illinois. Norm spent close to 4 years with me at WOAM Radio. We were on there for quite a while, and I don't believe Norm only missed one show in the whole time.
That's true.
So he enjoyed doing the show, and we enjoyed having him. Just to give you a little background about him, he was born in 1933. 32. I gave you an extra year. You should have took it.
I wish I had an extra year.
But anyway, he knows a lot about Peoria. He's made it his life, I guess, life ambition, or you just really jumped into it. And what got you going, and what made it such a obsession for you to collect the information in every point that you could possibly get it and to write about it? What was the motivating factor?
You know, and you used the right word too, obsession. I used the word haunted because I was unemployed in 1980, and when I started running, these stories, I have no idea where they came from either. They just would come in my head, and that's how I started. And my first story was running with wolves. Too bad it wasn't dancing, right? I probably would have made a fortune. And then I would come home and just write them with a pencil. And then before I knew it, I was typing them. And then it just kept going on to this very moment. I mean, I have no idea where it came from. And I then decided that I really need to find out about the history of Peoria. And that's where I started.
And what was your first story, if you remember?
The first story was fiction. And I wrote a book called Murder in Familiar Places. Had nothing to do with Peoria, except as a private detective and a paralegal in downtown Peoria, it was easy for me. And I began then to write these fictional stories, which when I ran across the first police officer that was killed in the line of duty, I decided, I think I'll write true crime. And so I began then to write the officers that were killed in the line of duty, which meant a lot of research. I started by looking at the monument, writing down those that were killed, and then I wrote Officer Down. Officer Down, that was the name of the book.
And of course, one of my cousins, Norval Wright,
That's right.
my mother's first cousin, my second cousin, was an officer. He fought in Iwo Jima, joined the Peoria Police Department, and was killed in a vehicle accident. He was riding a motorcycle. And of course, you wrote about that one too.
I did.
Yeah.
And that's a monument up on Hamilton Boulevard.
Yeah.
You know, and that we had, of all of the officers, a total of 21, by the way. The very first officer killed in the line of duty, I didn't know about. It wasn't on the monument. See, no one helped me, right? I had to do this one on my own. and I discovered that he was not on that monument. And I had a hell of a time getting him on that monument. So I just said, well, the heck with those guys. I went right straight to Washington, D.C., and got it on a monument in Washington, D.C., which forced them, of course, to put him on the one here in Peoria.
Now, you feel that is one of the good things that came out of all this, is that you were able to honor this individual who died in the line of duty,
That's right.
who would have been forgotten in the annals of history. Norm, we're going to talk about somebody that you wrote about, and his name was Bernie Shelton. And a lot of people don't know who Bernie Shelton was, but we've been reading about him a lot lately since we decided to do a little thing on him.
Yeah.
But he was big with Buster Wortman down in St. Louis. He was with Charlie Berger. He had killed people. He was in gambling, prostitution. I guess his cards should say anything for a buck.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were poor farmers down in southern Illinois. And they got involved in the bootlegging business, and once that was gone, they turned to slot machines and other illegal activities.
That's right.
But he ended up in Peoria, and we're going to show you folks where it took place. The place is still there yet today.
Oh, yeah, yes.
And tell everybody what happened that particular day. He was on his way to get the oil changed with a guy, and Alex Renitis.
His name was Cotton.
Alex Cotton.
Cotton.
Renitis.
Yes.
Well, so they were on their way to get it. They'd stopped by the office there across from Bradley Park.
In September of 1946, our mayor decided that he was going to stop gambling. That was like September 9th. And Treble, his name was Treble, and he decided that he was going to stop gambling in Peoria, and he did. And when he did, Shelton moved from downtown in another dump called the Red Onion and the Sports Palace. And they made a big deal of the fact that it was in view of the City Hall. Boy, that's really crushing evidence. What a joke. There were 29 of them. But anyway, he then moved to the Parkway, and he never had a...
And he was in the county.
Yes, now
So he was
he's out
exempt.
of the jurisdiction of the mayor. So now he's in the county. They have a legitimate business called the Shelton Amusement Company. But they were into gambling and owned a few slot machines, not very many. There's no money in big time money in slots. Gambling meant gambling like we in Reno in the 40s. We had 9 absolute casinos in the city. These were marvelous places. We had 242 taverns, and they all had gambling. So he was just one of hundreds of people involved in gambling. They give him credit for taking over gambling. What a joke that is. You imagine taking it over from the guys that I know about who own these places. You don't take anything away from them. In fact, his own mother said, when asked, who killed your son? She said, the same dirty rat that killed my other sons. And of course, during the testimony, they said that when they shot, I think it was Earl or Carl, I don't know one from the other. Anyway, they said, Blackie, don't shoot anymore, you killed me. I mean, do you have to be Sherlock Holmes to put this thing together? It was obvious to me.
Well, as I understand, and not in detail, but I understand that Blackie worked for the Sheltons at one time and did a lot of booze running out of Detroit, Michigan, when they were bringing Canadian whiskey
You bet.
here, and they got rid of him. They didn't want him
right.
around anymore. And I understand that this Blackie guy, he was a small fella in stature, and he was meaner than a snake.
You got to watch out for little tiny
Little Irish people.
You better look out.
But he was a bad guy.
But remember now, guys, Prohibition stopped in December of 1933. Bernie and his group got up here late 40, 41, right? That's the only thing I know about them when they got here. I know where they lived. He had a wonderful woman, Jenny, and she owned a salon, a hair salon. An attractive lady, a businesswoman. But this was really helped him, I'm telling you, because if you think he, could come here and make all this money, well, none of that is true. As the will show you, we won't show it to you, but he ended up, I think, with about 56,000 minus 16. So he was worth maybe 38,000 when he was killed here in Peoria. That's a lot of money, huh?
Well, in those standards, it would be more than most, I would say.
Wrong, because we had Bill Urban and so many other people that are making money that you couldn't even imagine the kind of money was being made here well, actually Prohibition started it.
Well, in my statement there, you could buy a Coca-Cola for a nickel.
Yep.
You could buy a stick of gum for 3 cents.
Well, I didn't have.
And you could buy a
3 cents.
brand new house for $2,500.
Yeah, well, I didn't have a damn dime, and I was a thief myself, and I certainly did everything I could to get together 35 cents or 40 cents. And when I would go downtown, I just realized what an incredible town this truly was. I think that's what triggered my interest way back when I was looking at that. And when I went to the funeral and see the people that came to bury him in the cemetery.
You attended the Bernie Shelton funeral. You and a
I
couple
did.
kids stood out along the
Yeah. I think that would be August 31, 1948. I had a motorbike, and they had a Cushman's, and we parked over by Newman, and we kind of snuck around. I don't know why, but I snuck around everywhere I went. I never thought I was really welcome anywhere because, I was a kind of a conniving kid. And I thought, well, they'll just kick us out, but we just stood there in the tree line and watched. And then when it was all over, I watched old women and ladies run up and steal every damn flower that they'd put on the grave. They stole every one of them, and I didn't have the nerve to do that. Unless I could have sold them, I would have. Well, 3 friends of mine, Bill McGee and Henry, and who would I wonder would be? Wouldn't be Jim, one of the Johnson guys. We decided that we were going to come here because when we heard about the funeral, he's a big deal in Peoria. And of course, so we came, and all of the street there, which would have been gravel, was loaded with, brand new cars, like 46s and 7s and 8s. I had a 35 Ford when I was 17. And, but we started riding motorbikes and Cushmans, Cushman?
Yeah.
And so we got around a lot. So we came and we pretty much stayed out of the way, not that they would kick us out or we didn't know, but we certainly didn't.
A lot
go
of
to
people?
there. Oh, yeah.
Huge.
If I'm guessing just from an old man's memory, surely there were over 150 or so. Bernie Shelton was a thug, a pug, an ex-convict. He had a nice wife once, he had a nice wife twice. He bought a home out off of Farmington called Shelton Lane. We fought like hell to give Richard Pryor a name, and we named one. Well, we didn't. He bought the property, and wasn't a nice guy, but he loved the idea that you knew who he was.
Peoria has a very interesting history, and my good buddy Norm has written about it for many, many, many years. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the demise of Bernie Shelton. But right now, we're going to go down to Kelleher's on Water Street with Pat Sullivan, Mr. Fish, and he's going to cook up some of those great trout we caught last month. Hey, here we go again. We're down on Water Street at Kelleher's with Mr. Fish, Pat Sullivan himself. Those trout that were on the last show, they are really a lot of fun to catch, but I'm going to tell you what, they're a whole lot more fun to eat. Pat's going to show us how to do it. Now, one thing you did do, Pat, is you cut their heads off. You didn't do that last time.
No, this is on the grill.
Okay.
So you get a whole nother flavor.
Different deal.
Yeah,
Okay.
whole different. We're leaving the skin on.
Yeah.
And you don't have to eat the skin, but I'm going to put it on the grill, skin on, and then we're going to put it in a little butter, sear it, bring it back on the grill, get the coloring, and a little bit of cheese with some Old Bay. Perfect.
Old Bay, that's your secret. He loves that Old Bay.
That Old Bay.
Oh,
It's
man,
good.
that's good stuff.
It makes me look like a good cook.
Well, you are. Well, Mr. Fish is going to do it like he has many, many, many times before, and I'm going to let this guy get at it because too many cooks in the kitchen spoil the soup, and I'm going to let him get at it.
Let's get some spray on there. Put a little vegetable oil on there to keep it from sticking. Those fish will go right on there like that. Once we get it on the grill, I love to take fresh lemons, squeeze it right on the open meat. Beautiful. All right, we're gonna let those cook up a little bit. We'll flip them over here. We have some cooking butter, a little bit different than what you eat. This is almost like a margarine. It doesn't burn. It'll hold a higher temp. So we'll put that on here. We want to do most of our time cooking on skin down. As you can see, the heat has cooked that fish, and it's leaving a little bit of pink on top, which is good because that's what we're going to cook next. So what we'll do, take them in here. Skin down. You hear that sizzle? That's good. That's a good sound. We'll get them sizzling. That helps cook the fish. Plus, it brings in some moisture. Nope, I was supposed to flip that. There we go. Just the right amount of time. Little Old Bay. Now we're going to take a little mozzarella cheese. Okay. The old restaurant trick. Put a lid on the cheese. Beautiful. Beautiful looks. Just a little more lemon. Not much. Okay, these ought to be good. Okay, we got 400 guys over there. It looks like they've been waiting for some food. So I'll hand that to you, John, and the boys there.
Hey, doesn't that look pretty?
That's so simple to do.
It's almost too pretty to eat. Isn't that beautiful?
Oh,
wow.
But it's good.
Just gorgeous. That is really something else. And you know what? I helped catch some of those fish. Oh, man. Big payoff there. Yep. All right, you guys are guinea pigs. We brought out this beautiful trout. I helped catch some of these.
I hate trout.
Oh, well, you don't get it.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. Thanks, bud.
Here we go. Now we're going to enjoy some fish. I'll go get a little coleslaw. We got some nice wine here and some Irish brown bread that we make right here at Kelleher's. And we're going to have a feast.
Well, I'm going to be the first one to check this out to see how good it does taste, because it sure looks good
Probably got the
cooking.
thinnest.
Man, is that good. Hi, this is Harry. It's that time again. Time to give a little to get back a whole lot. Great programming right here on Channel 47, our local broadcast station located here in Peoria, and we've been on for 24 years. It's a great place to go. I've got over 60 channels, and I only watch 4 or 5, and Channel 47 is one of them. And if you can only give $5, $100 or more, it's deeply appreciated. And you can call 866-377-0555 and give a little and get a lot.
Hi, I'm Dave Barth with your Sportsman's Tip of the Week. With ammo prices getting higher and higher almost on a daily basis, you might want to consider reloading, especially rifle and pistol shells. It doesn't take that much of an investment and that much equipment to get started. You need a reloading press, you need a powder scale, a powder measure, and dies. A nice accessory to have is a case tumbler. Of course, you need media for the tumbler. It's not a necessity that you have to have something like this, but it just cleans your brass and you get a good looking cartridge when you're done. Now, if you want to save some money, you can buy all of this equipment in a kit, and it's everything you need to start reloading except a set of dies. Once you have your basic equipment, you can change calibers for between $30 and $40 by buying a set of dies for each particular caliber. Once you have your equipment, you need your components. Primers you can buy by the thousand. Powder comes in single pound lots or in kegs. You need bullets of some type. Lead bullets like this are a real cost savings. When you shoot lead, like out of a 45 long Colt, for example, factory ammunition is $30 to $40. You can load a box of shells for $10. If you want to load rifle ammunition, you can buy bullets by the 100, and you'll load for about half of what they sell for new. And of course, you need brass. I'm Dave Barth with your Sportsman's Tip of the Week.
Norm, tell us what happened to Bernie. It was his last day on Earth.
It was. It was July 28th, 1948, and him and his friend Cotton has decided that they were going to take his Buick, Bernie's Buick, and have the oil change. Cotton would follow him and bring him back home. And so he got ready to go, both of them. And as they walked towards the side door, which is no longer there, Cotton said, "Bernie, wait. I left my cigarettes in the bar." And Bernie did not wait. He walked right out into the parking lot, apparently, to get in the car. A shot rang out about 93 feet, according to coroner's inquest, up the pathway to St. somebody's church, Joseph.
Cemetery, yeah.
Yeah, it was a cemetery. And it was a .351 old rifle. And this slug took out his spleen, and he fell forward on all fours. And immediately, according to a witness, he got up and he walked back inside the bar and went over to the where the bar was, and sat on the edge of one of those stools. And he told Cotton, he said, "They got me from the woods." And he said, "I've got a headache." And immediately one of the people in there, I think one of the ladies, brought him some kind of cloth with ice or something in it and put it on his head. And of course, Cotton said, "Bernie, we have to take you to the, we got to get you to the hospital." And I called an ambulance. And Bernie said, "I'm all right. I don't need to go to the ambulance." Well, I personally knew the ACE ambulance driver, and all this is recorded in the coroner's inquest. And he said, he kept trying to convince Shelton that he ought to get into this ambulance, and finally he did. And when he got into the ambulance, he lay on a cot in the back. I guess it was a stretcher. And when the ambulance got ready to leave, Bernie Shelton screamed at the driver, look out for that green Chevrolet, look out. And then he rolled off and laid down on the floor as the ACE ambulance began to pull away. And then the green Chevrolet followed him. We don't know why. Maybe he wanted to shoot at him again. Nobody knows this. About halfway up the hill, he outdistanced this little old 46 or 7 or 8 Chevrolet. And Bernie said, "I'm going to die. Take off my shoes and my jacket," which of course the man couldn't have done, right, because he's driving the car. And they took him down to an emergency at St. Francis, which used to be in the back, and took him in. And actually, the pictures that you might see are really in the hallway to the emergency room. And 40 minutes later, then Bernie died down at the ambulance place where they left him in the hallway. I don't know if they had a surgeon. Nobody really knows any of that. But the point is that they did find the bullet. And Mr. Hunt across the street actually witnessed this. And they found that it was all crumpled up and crunched. And I read the entire coroner's inquest, and it was extremely interesting. But that's how Bernie Shelton died in Peoria, Illinois.
Adventure Sports Outdoors, brought to you in part by Corsall Lumber, manufacturers of quality hardwood products, buyers of standing timber in Smithfield, Central Pool Supply, everything from pools to pool tables and much more in Peoria on West Pioneer Parkway. Michael O'Brien Commercial Real Estate and Recreational Ground, Remax Unlimited Commercial. Kelleher's Irish Pub and Eatery, located on Peoria's riverfront, open 11 a.m. daily. Christopher Coin Gun and Pawn LLC, 333 Derby Street in Pekin. Our thanks to all of these sponsors.
What an interesting story. In Peoria, where I grew up, and Norm grew up, was a great place, and we'll always have love and affection. No matter where we go, Peoria is a special place. Isn't that right, Norm?
Absolutely, Harry. You know, we became a city in 1845, and the history of the town, it just continued to grow during the Civil War, all of it, World War I, World War II, the excitement, the gambling, the prostitutions, the madams, the town itself, the downtown. Our motto was, if you can't find it in Peoria, you don't need it. It was truly a most fascinating, maybe the most fascinating little town in all of the United States, especially during Prohibition. I think that was probably the most exciting time. But the history of our town, the echoes of it still call to me.
I have to thank Norm, and it's really a privilege and a pleasure to have you here to talk about this stuff. And later on, we're going to do some other things about Peoria, our old hometown.
You bet.
A place where you and I both grew up, and there's something about Peoria that will stay with you to the day you die.
Absolutely.
And next month, we're going to do another show, a mystery show on an unsolved murder in Peoria, Illinois. And it's going to be on George McNair, the president of the TP&W, that's the Toledo, Peoria, and Western Railroad, which was involved in a strike dispute. And somebody shot and killed George McNair at the corner of Sheridan, Moss, and High Street. So that will be, Norm, a very interesting show.
You bet.
We'll see you next month.